Hello guys, welcome to the next video tutorial on Android app development for beginners. In the last video we have seen how to install Android Studio on our Windows operating system and how we can do the Android Studio SDK configuration. So in this category we have done some SDK configurations and we have downloaded some default packages, right? And the most important package was this one, which was Intel x86 emulator accelerator. So if this is not installed, you may want to install it because our emulator will run on this. Okay, so this is in extra, so make sure it's installed. Now once this is done, we are ready to create our first Android application. Now in here in the quick start menu you will see some options. The first option is the start a new Android Studio project, so we will click this option and then you can give the name to your Android application. Now it's encouraged to start the name of your application with a capital letter, for example my application, or I can change this to my first application, for example my first app, right? But if you do, or if you start the name by a small letter, you can see a small little warning here which says the application name of most app begin with an uppercase. So it's encouraged to give your app name with a capital letter. Now here second thing here is the company domain name. Right now we are at the starting of our learning cycle, so we will leave it as default, but in the later later exercises or later videos you may want to change it to your personal domain name. This is the location where your project will be saved. So see username Android Studio project and the name of your project. So just click next, and we are going to develop our application for phone and tablet. You can even make Android application for TV or wearable technologies like watches or Google Glass, but right now we will concentrate only on this phone and tablet application. And in here, this is interesting. In here it says the lower API level target more devices but have fewer feature available, right? So it's on you how much audience you want to reach. So right now by default this Android 4.0.3 is selected, which covers 87% of all the devices, right? So for example if you choose the latest version, which is Android 5, it covers right now 0%, almost 0% devices. And if you go to KitKat, it covers only 24% of the devices. And generally you may want to make some application which covers almost all the devices and have a backward and forward compatibility. So for example, if we choose this Android 2.2, it means that it will cover 100% of devices which will run on your newer devices and on older devices. So choose the one which covers the most percentage of devices, for example this Android Froyo, right? Click next, and in here this is the name of your blank activity, and in here you can give the name of your activity. Now what is activity? Activity is nothing but, you can say, a section or page of your application. Similarly, if you consider or if you compare this activity with or Android app with some website, an activity can be a home page or about page or some other page. So an activity you can compare to a page of a website, right? Now once everything is done, you can just finish. And now uh, this is for the first time we are running our application. So I will just try to run this application, and I want to print this hello world on my running Android emulator, right? So for the first time when you open this Android Studio, you can even do open your Android SDK manager from here itself. This is this small Android button here which says SDK manager. You can just open this, and in here, if you haven't done your SDK manager, or if you need to do some settings for SDK manager, you can open it from here itself, right? So right now nothing is required, so I will close this. Now the other button here is for AVD manager, and AVD manager is the full form of Android virtual device manager. And this AVD manager you can use to set your default Android device for which you are going to run your application. So by default it's Nexus 5. In my case, this can be different if you are watching this video in future, but by default it's going to give you a default device, right? So we will leave this device as default for now, but you can create your own devices by clicking this create button, and this we are going to see in the further videos. But for now we will just concentrate on our default device. Now in here, in the default device, in the actions, you can take 3 actions. One is to launch your AVD emulator. Second is the edit. You can edit your configurations of your device. So you can just click this pencil button, and in here all the settings of your device you can see. Okay, and in the show advanced settings you can even do some advanced settings, for example RAM settings or VM heap or internal storage, right? So for now by default I can see this RAM is 1536, which I think we need to change, but for now I will leave it as default because I want to run my application and see if any error occurs. We will change this RAM, because sometimes whenever you for the first time run your emulator, it gives this error. Okay, so I will just close this, and I will press this green triangle button here, which is for running our application. Just click this, and now it's waiting for AVD, which is ABD, and now it will run or execute your task. So it's 2 seconds to mention thing which I want to choose, and we only have one device, which was the default device. We will choose that. So I will wait for this device manager to appear. So this is the launch emulator, and the default device is Nexus 5, which was our default device. I will just leave it as it is and click OK, and now hopefully it will run. But sometimes you can see it gives you this error, and the error says that x86 emulator currently requires hardware acceleration. Please ensure that HAXM is properly installed. So this is the common Android problem whenever you run your first Android application. So don't worry, we are going to solve it. And to solve it, what we need to do is just see the location of your SDK file, which is in the first line. So this is the location where your SDK folder is there. So just copy this path until SDK, which will be something like c:/user, your username /app data /local /android /sdk. So just copy this path from here and open your file manager and paste this path, and this will open your SDK folder. And in your SDK folder there will be a folder called extras, and in this extras folder there will be a folder called Intel, and in this Intel folder there will be a folder called hardware accelerated execution manager, which has the short form of HAXM, right? So we will go inside this, and there is a executable file which we need to install in order to install this Android emulator. So we will click this application executable file, which is Intel HAXM-Android executable file. I will just run this and just click next. And this can be different for different devices. The default value of RAM can be different for different devices. If you have the larger RAM or memory, you can have more memory here, or otherwise, or depending upon the space you have. So right now for me it's 2 GB. It can be 1 GB for other devices, or it can be 4 GB for some other device. Just click next and install. So now the installation of HAXM is complete, so we will click finish, and now we will close everything and we are going to run our application. So I'm going to close this browser for now, and now I'm going to run our application once again. So this one is finished. Minimize it and let's run our application by clicking this green button. And hopefully this time we will not see the same error. We will choose the default application from here, and now we will wait for the message, and in some seconds we are going to see the response. So in here we are going to see the response any moment, and here we can see now the application is successfully launched. So it says HAX is working and it's started. So now for the first time this Android will load. This is an emulator on which our application will run. So now Android will start, or Android emulator will start, and once this emulator starts, our application is going to run on it. So it will work like an Android application or Android device, and we just need to unlock it when this is ready. So now just drag this upwards and the lock will be open, and now we just need to click OK and just wait for our hello world to compile and appear here. So now it's going to appear hello world, and you can see the hello world message we are able to see. So this is our application which is running on this Android emulator. So I hope you have enjoyed